Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dragon Talk. How's it going? This is the official Dungeons & Dragons podcast. Did you know that, Shelley?
No, I didn't. When did we become official?
Like years ago, but
Whoa.
we just wanted to keep it on the DL for a long time.
Whoa.
This is my co-host, Shelley Mazanoble. How are you doing?
Hello, wonderful. How are you?
I'm Greg Tito. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that either.
I've heard your name before, but I never knew the face.
It's not real. It's not. It's not.
Your stage name.
It's my fake face also. I'm actually a pod person. I don't actually look like this.
Pod person?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Good call. How are you guys doing out in the world of Dungeons & Dragons fandom? Good, I assume.
I think
this is now a call and response podcast.
Caller, how are you doing?
We're doing great. You suck. Oh, man.
Hecklers.
No good. We got a really good episode coming down the pipe for you today.
Yeah.
We are going to be talking to Alexandra Aaron.
Yes.
She's an author and personality who's played lots of Dungeons & Dragons on Twitch and other places.
Got lots to say. I read some of that blog.
It's good stuff.
Yep.
Good
Lots
stuff.
of words.
Can't wait to talk to her.
Yep.
We also got some fun lore you should know and or sage advice coming down.
Oh.
I know. I should have looked at the thing of what's happening. I planned this all out ahead of time, but I do know that this episode will be coming much quicker than other episodes have from when we recorded.
Well, good.
Only 2 weeks, I think. It'll be in the mid-Decembers.
Whoa.
We will be in the holiday season.
Out of episodes?
Yeah, exactly. We're getting down to the end of 2018. For those of you who have been listening this entire year, there was definitely a point where we were had a lot more episodes in the can than we had ever before.
Are too good at your job, Greg Tito.
We didn't know how to deal with it.
Too many guests.
Time travel is hard.
It's really hard.
I don't know. How, it's hard to write and or learn about things that you can change in the past that will happen in the future.
Yeah.
We didn't understand how we were affecting the future with our podcasts.
We did not know our power. So much power.
It's been a while since I've actually talked to you in person.
I know. We haven't been in the same room in a long time.
That's true. You traveled. You went to places. You went to Philadelphia.
I went to... we haven't talked about that.
No. That's what I'm talking about.
PAX Unplugged.
It was fun. Tell me about it.
It was good. It's a lot quieter than most PAXs, so I liked that because I'm an old lady. It's just like nice, respectable, quiet board gamers. Except I ended up in the classic tabletop room because we were playtesting a really exciting game that we can talk about now.
Yeah.
And it was during a Yahtzee tournament. So we actually picked that room because we're like, it'll be quiet in here because it's just classic
And then
board
random
games.
people would be like, Yahtzee!
And there was a full-on Yahtzee tournament. And it was just like, bam! Dice on table, dice on table, dice on table, Yahtzee! And then applause. Dice, Yahtzee! Like, well... what else? It was really fun.
Too bad Ryan Marth wasn't there actually doing the levels of the audio in
loved
your meetings
it, Ryan.
and playtests. That would have been perfect.
You really would have loved it.
He was on board for what you just did. That's what I liked.
Do you want me to really pick up those dice and throw them so you can get them full effect?
We'll make it happen. That's awesome. That was about a month ago for you listening to this, and it's
yeah. By the time people listen,
yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm getting better at that. That I actually know when timing is going to pass.
Yes.
But you got to introduce the world to Betrayal Legacy.
Finally.
I know. How was hanging out with
well
Rob?
Over a year. Okay, he's like seriously the most brilliant, most wonderful person ever.
I love Rob Daviau.
He's really the best.
He's good. He makes good games.
He might be like pooping his pants on the inside, but on the outside he's just like
cool
just
mode.
making another awesome legacy game.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of moving pieces. Yes, it's very challenging, but I can do it.
But we're handling it all.
But I'm just the best designer in the world, and I just make games.
But he doesn't say it like that. He's never.
That's what I mean. He's like just on the
building
exterior. Oh yeah, he's very, very humble.
Yeah.
We were doing some interviews after the announcement, and there were some people that were like hardcore geeking out, and they're like, because they didn't actually know who they were meeting with. We just said, "Oh, Avalon Hill has some news. Maybe you want to talk about it later."
Yeah.
And they didn't know what we were announcing, and they didn't know he was there. And then when they realized that was him, they were like, oh.
They all did what I did when I met Rob Daviau for the first time in person, where I was like, who are you? I'm so excited. You made Risk Legacy. And I was like, I went nutso inside. It's like the only time I've actually found fanboyed out.
Yeah, but he kind of like has like a mutual admiration for you because you send him a lot of cool swag.
Well, there's that. Yeah, I like to. I bribe people with some swag. Speaking of which, we have these wonderful necklaces that we're wearing
on loan from the collection of Hillary Ross.
Yeah, I will never be giving this dragon claw necklace back that has a 20 on the bottom and or a 1.
Which one did you get? The dragon claw?
I got the dragon claw
You didn't do
one.
the mind flare?
No, I didn't go for the, because that one's, I don't think is available. I didn't want to, I do the thing where,
Yeah,
look at this
that's
awesome,
rude.
I do it all the time, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it.
You don't want to
so I want,
disappoint people.
you can actually buy both of these things right now.
Mine is a beholder. If you can't see it well enough, it's beautiful, and he has a little blue eye.
I love that you're describing it because there is an audio podcast. You have to describe it too.
He's
Mine
really
is
cool.
a claw. I think it's called the Claw of Tiamat, actually, even though I'm not sure that it is definitely Tiamat. But we'll have to get some claw prints made.
Yeah, we're
get
gonna
some
have
dusting
to-
for claw prints to find out if that's actually her or not.
Well, mine is super cool.
Yeah, but these are available at hancholo.com. I've talked about them before, but they're just awesome.
Now you
we
can
want
see
to make
them.
sure.
I love the chain. I love it. And I like the cool D&D logo that's stamped on the back.
I know, right? It's good stuff. Yeah, I mean that's
I
how you know
just-
it's official.
I just like
Just
it.
like this podcast
Yes.
and this water bottle.
Official jewelry.
Exactly.
Official water. See, the water bottle is something people can't get.
I know, right? Soon, next year, I'll be making some.
Oh!
Totally be making
Can
some
I
more
tell
next
you
year.
what happened? PAX Unplugged.
What happened?
Water bottle. There is a story.
Yeah,
I was coming down the escalator. I had my water bottle in my backpack.
nice.
And then I just heard this giant clanking sound. My water bottle fell out of my backpack and all the way down where there was a huge crowd of people.
And what happened then?
Well, at first I was like, I may have just killed someone, but I really want my water bottle. So I don't want to be tied to the death that probably just occurred from somebody dropping a full water bottle off of an escalator into a crowd of people.
yeah,
But I really need that water bottle
because it was the D&D black
yeah.
water bottle
And
with
it's
the
like
red
the only
ampersand.
other. I'll never get another one.
It's true.
So I didn't hear people screaming, so I went and looked for it, and it was mysteriously gone. And I was like, someone stole my water bottle.
So it turned from concern to anger.
to anger. And then I was walking out sad, and I saw at the security booth, it was there. And I went running up to it, and I said, that's my water bottle. Somebody must have just found it and brought it there. And this woman looked at me, and she goes, you could have killed someone.
Oh, so the concern came back right
and
away.
it came back full circle. I have an arc. There's an arc.
There's an arc to this.
So I was like, yep, gotta go, bye.
I'm just so happy I've got my one-of-a-kind water bottle
back.
that you can't ever get anymore. That's
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, obviously my DNA was all over it. They would have found me eventually, but
Oh, I'm sure the convention center security office has got some swabs where they're taking DNA tests to find out exactly who's
they totally would have.
Yeah, because
Somebody there probably
it's
had
danger.
like a pocket DNA.
It's true.
kit. There's probably a board game where you can. There was board games for everything.
Did a lot of people love playing Betrayal at Baldur's Gate
Yes.
at PAX Unplugged?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
What
Lots of good feedback on that.
about buzz about Xanathar's Guide to Everything? Were there people talking about
All
that?
people want to talk about.
Nice.
They're so excited.
Why are they
So-
excited? Tell us more.
They just said it sounds like the best book ever, and that there's so much content in there and all of the different subclasses, and oh my god, that cover is amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
So why aren't you? I mean, it's kind of a big deal.
We had talked about it for a long time.
Oh,
Let's
we
talk
did?
about but
like,
I
the
will
fact
definitely
that
say
it was
on the lists.
what number on the list?
Many number one publishers weekly. It was number one on Amazon. No, it wasn't number
Wall
one on
Street
Amazon.
Journal.
Wall Street Journal. That was the one I was thinking of. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here for you.
It was number 12 on the USA Today list, which does nonfiction and fiction all together.
Jeez,
Yeah,
really? I
insane.
didn't know they combined them.
Yeah, for that one. So crazy.
Who else is on these nonfiction lists? Because that just makes me laugh for that person that's probably like,
they're
I
like
am a doctor.
memoirs.
I have written.
Joe Biden has got like his memoir
Oh,
that we were like.
sorry, Joe.
Yeah,
we should
were-
send him a copy of Xanathar's.
I'd send him a copy of Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I don't know, sure he would appreciate it.
He'll appreciate it. He seems funny.
He seems like a nice guy. Yeah, right. So we'll do that for sure.
Yeah, so
but
like-
yeah, it's stuff
like-
like that. Oprah had something on the nonfiction list too.
Oh,
right?
sorry,
Yeah.
oops.
Yeah.
Well,
Or was that the one that was the Amazon list? I
They're
don't know. All I
probably
know is that
just-
it's amazing that it's in the same conversation with all
yes.
these people.
And that these people are looking at this list of Joe Biden's picking
Mm-hmm.
it up like, what number am I on? Well, there's a
Well, that we can't prove. Do you think he was like looking at this list, refreshing it, and he's like, "What is this Xanathar's Guide to
His
Everything that's
publisher
beating
was.
me?" All right.
Yes.
Yeah, his
Well, he
agent.
probably somehow, I'm just trying to make us like 1 degree from Joe Biden. Somebody told him, well,
There is that D&D book
this
that's
guy,
doing
this
really
new
well.
guy, debut author, Xanathar.
Ralph Xanathar.
It's got some guide to everything.
It's good stuff.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, so thank you to all of the fans who's been purchasing this book and enjoying it. It's been out in the book channel for, a long time now at this point, but this is the first time it kind of was available everywhere, available widely, and so more and more people are getting it now. And those of you who got it from your friendly local game store, kudos to you. You're good people, and picking up the alt cover there is the way to go. For those of you who weren't able to get it in stores, I know a lot of people were complaining about that, a new reprint. We reprinted this before it was even out. So those reprints should be coming to you now and over the next thing. So we'll keep it in stock as much as possible. That's not really us. That's our retailers and our distributors who make those things, but we are printing it as fast as we can to get it in their hands. And if you haven't had a copy or whatever, it'll be coming to you soon.
It's on a lot of gift guides, too, as well as Betrayal at Baldur's Gate.
I know. Now we have like a neck-and-neck thing going on here with...
Oh, no.
Right?
Were you on the Boing Boing gift list?
We were, in fact, yes.
Were you on USA Today's gift guide?
I don't know, actually. I don't know if we were.
Was.
Oh.
IGN?
No, they. I guess, yeah. No.
Also on
look at
Betrayal
you.
at Baldur's Gate.
Look at you. Betrayal at Baldur's Gate is just riding high. I'm liking it.
Hopefully.
So where were you on the nonfiction list? Where did you make the list there?
I'm not a book. Okay?
I'm a person.
I'm not a book. I'm a board game.
Awesome. Well, we are super excited that everything has been going on here with Dungeons & Dragons. It's been a good year. We'll continue to talk more and more about that and get into 2018, all the fun stuff that's going to happen then. We got plans going on here.
Thankfully.
But one of the fun things that has been really great and a lot of people have been loving, and you people mentioned this while you were in PAX Unplugged, was all the segments that we do, like Lore You Should Know and Sage Advice. As well as, you, I guess. You're pretty...
Yes,
people like to
but
talk.
most people were like, I really like you and Greg. I don't think they'd like me on my own. Kind of a package deal.
That's not true. You
No,
are very
nobody
entertaining.
likes me on my own.
Except for all your fans on your Facebook page.
Are you laughing, Ryan?
I like you.
You do?
Ryan likes you.
Well,
Yeah? I think it's a thing.
Anyway,
let's get to one of those segments. Do you want to do the transition to one of those segments?
here's a segment.
Oh, that's the best.
Here's a segment that
Bing.
you'll probably really like. I'm not in it.
That's golden. Let's do it. We're keeping that. We're keeping that. That's a great way to get to the next segment.
Bing bongs!
Bings bongs are happening. All right, thank you, Twitch folks, for bearing with us on that intro. We actually did the live intro at the same time as our Twitch intro.
Whoa.
And we nailed it.
Getting so much better at
We're
this whole
professional.
podcasting
We're
thing.
totally professional.
Totally.
Not really. Even though it's literally been like a month since you and I
I
were
know.
on this
It's like I
together.
almost forgot how to do this.
It's like riding a bike, Shelley. You never forget.
Totally. Well, what's Pelham doing?
He's adjusting something
He's
because we're
cutting me out of the camera.
We're gonna do our quick mid-tro as soon as Ryan gives us the thumbs up. How are you guys doing on the Twitch? I didn't get to really talk to you guys too much, but I'll talk to you now while we're doing all this.
Why-
Axis of Anarchy says that she loved meeting you at Origins.
At Origins?
Yeah,
Aw,
long time ago.
that was nice. See,
That is nice, right?
people do like me, gosh darn it.
Siri keeps trying to tell my friends to pick up Jennifer's guide to everything. Wow, we should totally do like a
is
Jennifer's guide to
Jennifer?
everything. It's not the Xanathar, it's
No.
Jennifer's
It would
guide.
be great if there was a giant D&D monster boss whose name was Jennifer.
Yeah.
What?
What? You want
wanna
to fight? I will take you down.
Say it to my face.
I love that. Yes, and Lauren Obo Crazy says these water balls are weapons grade. I'm not sure what that means. It means you could have killed someone.
It means I could have killed someone. We're going to have to put warnings on them.
They do 1d8 damage, I think.
could have killed someone. But you failed your role.
All right, so let's do our little midtro, and then we can call up our guest. You want to do it?
Midtro.
Midtro. That was a really good segment that we just
Oh.
listened to.
I loved it.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Because I feel like I know a lot more about what happened
Always.
in those worlds.
That was knowledge filling my headspace.
I didn't realize you could make any sound with your mouth. You're like a Foley artist.
I am very talented.
It's true. What was that?
Did you like that, Ryan?
It was like it's half transformer, half like a crawling, creeping monster.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's up for our audience to decide
Okay.
what that monster and/or character is
Make
going
a
to be.
monster out of. That's like. I should have my own show.
Like create a sound effect and then
And then
make
a
a
monster.
monster from
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
All right, let's do that.
So has Mike
Why don't you
started his show?
pitch Bart that?
I'm gonna pitch it
Pitch
tonight. Tonight over some potato leek soup.
Oh, delicious.
Do you want to come over? I have tons of it.
I would.
I made it in the crock pot.
Done
And it
and
just
done.
kept making. Like, well, this is a lot of soup. This is so much soup. Does anyone in this house even like potato leek soup?
And Quinn's like, no.
Oh, yeah,
Mommy,
Quinn was
no.
like, Mommy, that smells like vomit and old cheeseburgers.
And then he's like, poop. And
Yep.
then- Our kids know each other. They're on the same wavelength. Let's call up Alexandra and ask her whether she likes potato leek soup and if
Potato
she
leek
wants to
soup.
come over.
I got enough.
I think there's plenty.
Feed the whole neighborhood.
I like it. Hello.
Hello.
Oh.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. I want to thank you for having me on because this completes my circuitous plan of revenge. Shelley, next time you drop a water bottle on someone, make sure you finish the job.
Oh,
It was you?
the whole
That's
time?
why she wants to be on here.
That makes total sense.
Were you at PAX Unplugged?
I was not.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, it was. It could have been you. Could have been anyone.
That's what you call drama, people. That's
It was you.
way to do that. Thank you so much for calling in, Alexandra.
No, you're totally classing up this joint. I'm like, your soothing, soft voice is just good.
Yeah.
Like professional. It's about
Well,
time we
thank
had
you.
someone professional.
I spent about an hour before this doing vocal exercises, so here I am.
That's the way to do it. So yeah, we wanted to have you on because I've seen your name pop up a lot on Twitter about talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and you played on a bunch of Twitch streams as well.
Actually, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? I feel like I've seen other people that I know playing with you, so maybe that's where I'm confused there.
Yeah, it's I have a very weird online presence where I am constantly adjacent to people. So
Oh.
I know a lot. I do play and hang out with a lot of people who are on Twitch streams. My name does just sort of circulate and come up.
It is true. It is true. So when did you start playing Dungeons and Dragons?
I started playing in the 80s when it was kind of at its peak pop culture saturation, the Saturday morning cartoon, board games, books. And the funny thing is the role-playing game was the last part of the D&D franchise that I found out about.
Oh.
My brothers and I, we saw the cartoon and it was so incredible. And it was apparent from it that Dungeons and Dragons was this pre-existing thing. But we had no clue what it was. And then there were toys in the toy store aisle that had nothing to do with the cartoon except being Dungeons and Dragons. Then we found novels and board games, and eventually we found the game, and it all sort of clicked.
Oh.
That makes sense. So did you get the action figures and kind of play with them, or was it just in the store?
We had a couple of the action figures.
Yeah.
They weren't the characters from the cartoon. I couldn't tell you who they were at this point.
The only one I remember is the Bobby the Barbarian.
I had a Minotaur.
You had a Minotaur?
I mean, recently.
Oh,
I still have him somewhere.
really?
Yeah.
I just because I was a kid too in the '80s, and there was something about that, like having the big club that the Barbarian kind of hits down that I just
Yep.
remember. Like that is the image that's cemented in my brain from that cartoon.
Yes.
My favorite was Presto the Wizard.
Mm.
And there's only one gag from the cartoon I remember, and that is the only conjuring spell he cast that worked was when Eric the Cavalier dared him to summon an aircraft carrier. So he reaches into his hat and says, "Abracadavy, United States Navy." And then the camera pulls back, and they're standing and up to their ankles in swamp water, and there's this aircraft carrier in the background, right behind them, deck 100 feet up in the air. So it is of no use to them at all, but it worked.
But he
That's
did
awesome. Did you follow the storyline of the cartoons? Are you one of those people who are at the edge of your seat waiting to see how it actually concludes?
I was very disappointed that we didn't get the final episode as a child, but most of the cartoons of the 80s never really had resolution either, so I just sort of eventually rolled with it. And it's kind of, I don't know, my storytelling philosophy is that and I think this is why I like role-playing games, but I like the middle parts of stories better than the beginning or the end. So I'm content to just imagine that the adventure keeps going on.
Yeah.
Write your own ending.
Exactly.
So when you discovered that D&D was a role-playing game, did you guys did you play it? Is that when you started playing it, or was it at a different time?
Oh, yes. Yes, we started playing, I want to say it was about 1989, so I was only about 9. We were in a small town, no comic shop or hobby store. So we were one of those rare groups where there was nobody, there's usually the one experienced friend who starts a group and teaches everybody else. We had to teach each other, so we got a lot of it wrong, but that's part of the fun.
Oh, yeah.
That is part of the fun, yeah. I've heard from folks like that, too, who are like their parents just bought it for them with like no context and was like, here, figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had we had cobbled together a sort of Frankenstein edition out of a mix of first and second edition AD&D books and the various flavors of BASIC that were floating around. We didn't have any kind of guide or didn't understand how it all went together. I found at a garage sale early on in our experimenting with the game, I found a copy of the Magenta Basic D&D box with the little dull blue extruded plastic dice that you had to shade in with a crayon.
Oh, yeah.
And it came with module, I think it was B2, the Keep on the Borderlands. And it's just a little short adventure, but that was like the first pre-written scenario that I had, so I just turned it into a campaign setting based around this keep, the players moving in. There was politics and there was economics. There was a kobold uprising revolutionary group. It was a lot of fun.
That is cool.
So were you the dungeon master, or did you guys take turns with that?
I pretty much I am. My gift and my curse is that I'm really good at understanding complex things. So even though I was not the oldest of my siblings, I have an older brother and a younger brother who were interested. I was sort of the eternal game master of any game that we played.
Oh, yeah.
So, which I don't mind. I'm a storyteller by nature.
Well, it sounded like the cool idea that you brought to Keep on the Borderlands of like making it, a political story and a revolution. Like that seems like you took to it immediately.
Yeah, it was a pretty natural fit.
That's awesome.
A little foreshadowing for your future.
Exactly.
Things that you would come to write about.
Very true.
And I like the idea of cobbling different editions together and different things that you're finding out there, because that's kind of like D&D. It is just, play by your own rules, kind of make things up, tailor it to fit you. It's teaching generations of children to be game designers in a way.
This is jumping ahead, but that's really one of my favorite things about the current 5th edition is the way that it draws just so much of what is good about every edition of Dungeons and Dragons and makes it presentable. When I was a pretty big fan of 4th edition, but the thing I didn't like about it is I found it difficult to approach for newbies. There was not really an on-ramp when it launched, and I used to talk about this on the forums, and people would say, well, that's not how you play Dungeons and Dragons. You have to like apprentice to somebody and have them teach you. And I'm like, this is not the way that you advance a hobby.
Right.
What about all of the people, the poor kids in small towns buying books at garage sales like I did,
Yeah,
Right.
you need to have that that onboarding. I think that the D&D starter set for 5th edition does a good job of that now, but there still is more that could be done as far as like picking it up and playing it immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
Other people talk. Go ahead.
I was going to say in the intro, I think Shelley described my career as a lot of words, and that's probably the most accurate.
Yes.
I'm going to put that on my business card.
Lots of words.
So, like one of the several of the words that I say on Twitter, I go into I do explanatory threads about the nomenclature in Dungeons and Dragons, and that's one of the things where I try to identify things that are stumbling blocks for new players, like the difference between the attack action and attacking and all that stuff. And it's just, I feel there could be a little more clarity, but.
For sure, yeah, and that's we try to have segments like we're talking to Jeremy. I love talking to Jeremy Crawford and getting at the heart of the design intent about some of this stuff, because that's you learn so much more just by asking questions and having that person. That's where what you were talking about, the apprentice master, dungeon master relationship kind of comes in play. Like you don't really learn as well when you're just, here's a manual of stuff to figure it out. But you learn when you're having a relationship with a game or something like that. So yeah.
It's a cool idea. D&D should come with an apprentice.
It should. Not The Apprentice, because that gets into total other territory. But
yeah. So I have learned so much about game design just from watching. His name just fell out of my head. I was going to call him Jeremy Clarkson, but that's somebody else.
Crawford.
Jeremy Crawford.
Yes.
On the Twitter. Just reading his answer tweets to people explaining the way the rules interact with each other and the balance considerations.
Those are fascinating.
Yeah, and it's like both him and Mike Merles will often tell people you can probably get away with being laxer than the intended rule on this, but this rule exists for balance considerations. Mm-hmm. And it's you can kind of figure out which rules, how to not just how the rules are made, but how you can play with them as a DM.
Right. My favorite parts of Jeremy's interactions with folks are when it's like, this is how language works.
Yeah, my favorite is I just like when the answer is basically like, yes, it does what it says.
Right. You're trying to ask the question because you have a point of view of like, oh, it's going to be like this. I'm like, no, it's actually wrong. As written. This is what we intended.
You wrote it this way, but what I think you meant is my way.
When I'm answering questions on Twitter or other social media, when the question is, does this count as that? Like, does a monk's unarmed strike count as a finesse weapon? My answer is that nothing counts as anything. They are what they are. It's very much a role-playing game, not a guessing game.
For sure. It's all explained there, although, there's some corner cases and things.
Yeah, there are some corner cases, and there is some of the nomenclature where they're recycling the same words for different purposes can get a little confusing.
Right.
But just as a rule of thumb, if you stop looking for what counts as what, a lot of things fall into place.
That's a good point.
That is good. So along those lines, if someone comes to you and says, I'm interested in learning how to play Dungeons & Dragons, and I can't find an apprentice anywhere, where would you point them? What do you think is the best place for someone to learn about D&D?
Well, this is a little outside my interests, but I have heard from so many people that watching the podcast games, like Acquisitions Incorporated and the other one whose name is Critical Role.
Yep.
Just those kinds of things. Mike Merles had a great Twitter thread that was about how the streaming community really revolutionized how people learn the game, which changed how they design the game. Because 4th edition, the big online community for D&D was people sitting around in forums arguing about character optimization and corner cases. And now suddenly you can watch people being goofy.
Yeah.
Right.
Sitting around a table and just having fun. You can see both how the rules work and how loose the rules are.
Right. It's kind of like having hours and hours of live focus groups just in front of you. Mm-hmm. That's actually the first time that I had read about Mike saying that in that Twitter thread was when I was reading your blog, when I knew we were going to be talking to you. And I'm like, that's fascinating. I never really thought about how much the game changed based on watching people play it or how people play it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that completely makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the people like yourself, talking about the game and having a conversation, even just mentioning how you were talking about the nomenclature about how these terms work and interact together. There were forums 10 years ago, but those weren't the kind of discussions that people were having on the public space.
Oh.
Right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. No, it was a very different. It was more of an in-group type environment, and it wasn't necessarily anybody trying to be exclusive as a whole community, but it's easier to get into a ongoing private conversation if you already understand what's happening. My friend I tend to tweet about Dungeons and Dragons when I have insomnia, which is every night. so tune into my Twitter at 3 a.m. Eastern time. But anyway, I was tweeting about it last night, actually, about my open gaming license project that has been ongoing for a while. I was talking about the balance considerations of it and how they compare to the design.
Oh, right, because you were talking about your spell points.
Yeah.
Yes, and how the economy for the levels 6 through 9 was totally different. Yeah, I was watching that.
All right.
Yeah. So my friend Amanda the Great on Twitter. I hope she doesn't mind that I just mentioned her handle, but
More people
anyway, so
pointing to her.
she tweeted at me that she only understands about 1 in 3 of my D&D tweets, but she loves reading them. And my thought is that if I keep doing this, eventually she's going to understand 2 out of 3 of them, and then maybe she'll start playing, and then she'll get 3 out of 3.
For sure, right? And pushing that conversation forward, I think, is cool. So, when I'm going back a little bit because I feel like we skipped over when you got into the game, and then yada 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 to right now.
5th edition.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, where was the transition there? Like what after you were playing, learning all the systems, cobbling together that thing of first day D&D and all that. Yeah, what happened next?
Okay, so what happened next is I went through the period that a lot of gamers, I think, did in the 90s, where I decided that I was too cool for school, and I wanted to play GURPS, and I wanted to play Riffs, and Dungeons and Dragons was just this flawed dinosaur of a thing, and, but interestingly, now, I went through when I was a child, I played with childish things, and now I'm like looking back and going, the childish things were awesome, and I'm realizing most of what I wanted to do with those other role-playing games was sort of recreate my experiences with D&D, but sort of stripped of the parts that frustrated me. So I missed like the second half of the 90s in D&D. I was playing, I was mostly messing around with GURPS and other systems. And
That's
then
cool. I played I played MERPS around that time, which was the Middle Earth.
Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, we actually discovered that right before we discovered Dungeons and Dragons was a role-playing game. So that gave us a little bit of context when we did stumble across it.
Nice.
So, yeah, and then 2000 happened. The third edition came out. I think if I had not been sort of transitioning into adulthood and figuring out working and things like that, I probably would have been big into it because it had a lot of the first steps away from the things I found constricting and counterintuitive about the previous editions of D&D. But I basically missed third edition. I started being aware of it right around when people were talking about the upcoming fourth edition, and that's when I got back into it. Was fourth edition. And
you said you were a fan of it at the time.
Yes, and I'm willing to admit this.
I liked it.
I did too.
So I thought it did not explain itself well. A lot of the common complaints I thought were baggage that people were bringing to it, like the idea that healing surges and martial powers were like video gamey and things. My point of view on it was everybody gets into Dungeons and Dragons thinking that it's going to be like, all of the epic fantasy comics and movies and video games and things they've played, and then when we're talking old school, they end up being one of the 17 people who died on the way to where the actual hero story.
Right. Yeah, but I never found that with fourth edition. Like I liked that it was simple enough to be like, all right, these are the powers that all characters are using, and it made sense to me at the time. But it wasn't until a few years of campaign play that I started to see some of the holes in it, at least for my tastes, where the fun part about spell casting and things like that is that there's a little bit of I don't know, like a system behind it, right? And if everybody's powers are all, you push them to and you do X amount of fire damage or whatever the thing is, it was hard to extrapolate, like, well, what does that mean if you're using that power to be pushed across a chasm? Like, can you use a wind power to do that? And I think 5th edition, rightly so, put back some of the real world mechanics into it, so it wasn't everything was combat based and everything was grid based.
Yeah, and this is one of the things is, I think 4th edition's formulaic standardizing of how spells and powers were presented was very much trying to please an unpleasable segment of the fan base that really demanded that anything that was slightly less powerful than whatever they deemed optimal was therefore broken and worthless, and anything slightly more powerful than anything else was too good not to choose. And so they tried to make everything very mathematically one for one.
Yeah.
And, if you've read my Twitterings or my blogging, my standard question when somebody talks to me about character optimization is optimal for what? For what purpose are you optimizing? And it's always combat of the sort that I call the spherical goblin in a vacuum problem. You're not imagining there's any corner cases. You're not imagining there's any surprises. You're not leaving any room for improvisation from the DM or the players. You're just assuming that you get an ISO 9000 standard encounter with the enemies arrayed just so, and you're just then unloading whatever is mathematically, according to your understanding of game theory, the most precise way of killing all of those goblins.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was a bit of making sure that everything was quote unquote balanced. I think a lot for the miniatures game as well as for the 4th edition itself, and we keep bringing up conversations with Jeremy Crawford, but he said in one of the most recent Sage Advices that we recorded, which you may be listening to on this very podcast, before this interview. But yeah, he was like, it's optimal for who? Optimal for what? Like someone might want to, which is just what your question was, but of a person who wants to have a. This is actually on Twitter recently where someone was talking about a familiar. And like, it's always optimal to have a familiar that's an owl because of all the amazing things that an owl can do. It can fly and see in the dark and blah, blah, blah. And Jeremy's rejoinder to that was just like, well, some people want to have a cat for a familiar, and that's optimal for them. And it doesn't matter about the mechanics of it because it's not what their fantasy is.
Yeah. Yeah, my moment when I sort of had the awakening you were talking about with 4th edition was when I was having a conversation with somebody in the Wizards community after they introduced the first the first assassin, the shadow-powered assassin character in 4th edition. And I thought it was amazing because, they can stab people with shadows. They can stab your shadow to death to kill you. They can lasso you with a shadow. And the character optimization boards just thought it was like the weakest, most underpowered thing ever, and it was a couple of points of damage off from everything else. And I'm like, okay, but what about the appeal of you can lasso somebody with a shadow and pull them over to you and then stab them to death by stabbing their shadow? And they're like, but it's still just a pull too, and it's like, I feel like I do feel like the player does have to bring some of the imagination, but there was a point there.
Yeah, I hear that.
Do you teach?
Not formally.
Oh, I just feel like you have a very interesting, relatable approach to game design and theory. You would be a good teacher.
Yeah, I teach a class every night at 3 in the morning.
When you're insomnia tweeting.
Insomniac's Guide to Dungeons and Dragons.
That's true, actually. Yeah. So any university administrators out there who are looking for a faculty member to teach game design. They do
online.
Yeah, exactly. Make it happen, right? University of Phoenix. We're talking to you. Just point it to Alexandra's Twitter.
There you go.
And you will learn. Are you playing? What are you playing in now? Are you running any campaigns?
Well, I got a couple different things going, and a couple other different things I'm trying to get off the ground. I'd like to talk about a D&D podcast I'm doing.
Ooh, cool.
It's very fledgling. We have had to shuffle the group around a couple of times, and so every time we do this, since we've just kind of starting, we've had some false starts and stops to it. But this is with, excuse me. It started off, under the title of Dash Attack.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was it's a gaming podcast discussing queer and LGBT sensibilities and presence in gaming, both tabletop and electronic. And they decided that the name was not very indicative of the message. So now the podcast is called Console Queers, and they have a spin-off called Dungeon Queering, where it's a bunch of trans people. We're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Those are great names.
So yeah, we have shuffled the group around a couple of times as we find our footing, and as of next week, I am actually going to be DMing that the perpetual DM
nice.
problem. I was very excited to actually be playing a character, but
I just kind of assumed you were going to be the DM. They probably did too.
So I went from playing I'm very happy with my character, and I'd like to put her in something, or maybe get back to her if I can tag somebody else in as DM. I made a halfling fighter because I like proving to people that there's no, quote, suboptimal character. Named Didi Paradisi. Didi are initials because Danger is her middle name, and Danger is also her first name.
That's the best catchphrase ever.
Danger is my middle name. Also my first name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was it your last
Like
name
it.
at some point, but then she decided to change it?
Yeah.
DDD.
So, yeah. And then I also have a home game that I'm very fond of. It's on hiatus for the holidays, but otherwise frequently we'll restart on Saturday on January. So Saturday evenings, my long-term Twitter followers know that I start posting out-of-context D&D quotes from it. Eventually, I'd like to write some of it up because we've got great characters.
Yeah, I love that. That's almost like a Jack Handy out of context D&D
Yeah.
quotes. I feel like that could be a good book.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Do you ever do any of your D&D characters or games or store the worlds that you're building in D&D make their way into your writings, to your novels?
I am glad that you asked because I started writing something for Nano this year,
Oh, cool.
and then I got sick, so it's no longer a Nano project, but I'm still working on it.
That's good. I mean, not good that you got sick, but I'm glad you're still working on it.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, I'm glad I got sick too. So this started off as my attempt to. I wanted to do a sort of online forum style game, maybe play by mail. It didn't actually get anywhere, but I made a campaign setting that I called Deep Jammer. It is a combination of Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Spelljammer.
Oh, I bet there's a bunch of people in the community that would love to see something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started. It didn't work out as a campaign. Just couldn't pull the time together for it, and kept being distracted by real life. So, but I already had like a 30,000 word campaign Bible with background characters and the setting described and everything. So it's like, oh, I can start doing. I can start doing my Nano. I've already written my story Bible here. So
Wow, 30,000 words just on the Bible. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I told you she's a lot of words.
a lot of words.
A lot of words.
So many words.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's I have been posting the excerpts during the first third of November. Every day I had more excerpts of my daily writing. It's all very rough because it was a frantic draft. But on my Patreon page, under the tag "Jamming in the Deep."
Nice.
I've got Adele now going through my brain.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think Deep Jammer is going to be the final title of that.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have a working title other than that. So.
That's good. I like that. So going back a little bit to the console queers, and then the table with top one was dungeon queers. Is that what it was?
Dungeon queering.
Queering.
Like dungeoneering, but we're queering.
Oh, see, I was going with the clearing the dungeon as the
come on.
What are you? We're not clearing it. We're queering it, which I thought was also very cool.
It works on 2 levels. So
It works on so many levels. So is that podcast going to be just the storytelling podcast, or are you going to be more about talking to people about more like an interview thing like Dragon Talk is?
It's going to be the story.
Okay.
I believe The first episode, or maybe two, has already been posted. This is on the Console Queers Patreon, which is just patreon.com/consolequeers. They have the one page where they have both their electronic gaming, which is more of an interview talk format like this, and then also the dungeon one where we play Dungeons and Dragons. So I don't know that there's quite a bit of a backlog with all the shuffling we've done. I don't know the point where I start DMing is going to actually start going live, but I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
It's next week. I don't yet know what I'm doing, but
Well, it's a good thing you have Insomniac, so you have plenty of
Yeah,
time
exactly.
to
That's
to
when
work
she
on that.
teaches her class, though.
but it's about D&D, so I'm kind of,
Kind of always
The wheels
thinking
are-
about it.
wheels are always spinning. Wheels are always spinning.
So will the so other than all the players being queer or in that community, are the issues in the story going to be about that as well, or is it just going to come more naturally? Like, I want to get to the heart of the thing that you haven't planned yet.
We're helping you.
We're helping you talk it out on
Yeah.
right now.
So, well, ultimately, I sort of subvert basically everything I do in Dungeons and Dragons. Like, as a 9-year-old with the Keep on the Borderlands,
Right.
I wound up making the kobolds into revolutionaries and kobold rights and everything.
I love that.
So, in my home game, the one that's paused right now, the group of adventurers, the setting there it's a campaign setting I call Signs and Wonders, where the high concept is magic went away 1,000 years ago and it comes back all at once. So like all of the wizards in the world are level 1 wizards. And everybody is figuring out how magic works. And this is actually part of how I teach Dungeons and Dragons sometimes, is because if the players don't have any concept, you get the people who've been playing it for 20, 30 years and they know what a beholder does and everything. And then you get the players who are brand new and none of the old surprises surprise them anymore. They know the mimic, they know the cloaker,
Yeah.
but you get the brand new players and you make magic brand new in the world and it becomes just so much more of a wonder.
That's really cool.
That's a great idea.
So they have settled in this town that was sort of wiped out in the chaos of the return of magic. There's this little shepherd village and they've built it up and it's now the biggest city in the area. Every time I give them a magic item, no matter how cool I think it is, they immediately turn it into town infrastructure.
Interesting. So they'll take like what's the name of the magic item that gives water? It's like,
The Everfull flask or something like that.
yeah, right. And you're like, oh, that's our fountain.
Water. Yeah, stuff like that. Like,
Very generous.
So yeah, I sometimes give them magic items that when I was a teenager with the Dungeon Master's Guide, I was just salivating over wishing somebody would actually run a game and I could get this. Like Darren's Instant Fortress.
Yeah.
I think they took that out into the field once. The other times, it's just there looming next to a cottage in town, so they've got a secure place.
I love that.
Are you kidding me? I love the fact that they're very socially conscious. They have created this workers' utopia, and they have made peace treaties with the orcs and kobolds and lizard folk around them, and
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Especially since when you first described this setting, I was like, man, this is like a metaphor for the rise of technology in our current society and how like we because it's the same thing. Like all of a sudden you have a magical phone in your hand that can do all these crazy things where 15 years ago we didn't have that, and now look where we are. So I thought it would go that way, but it's amazing that they've ended up being this force for good.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's nice. I kind of wish that we had a dungeon master for you. I just feel bad that you just really want to be a player.
One of these times I'll get on Real Funny or something and just jump into a pickup game, I guess.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There's options. So
True.
yeah. But it's funny though. I love again, I love that my group is interested in building the town. I thought I would have to trick them into that part of it, and I love the fact that they're doing diplomacy instead of resorting to murdering people and taking their stuff as the default. But then I will try to be like, okay, I'm going to set up a combat encounter, and there's no way that they are going to talk their way out of this thing. And then they'll spit out something that's just like so perfect, and I'm like, okay, I can't not let that work just because I want them to have to fight this.
Or they're just pacifists. Are they just resistant to wanting to fight, or what's their...
They're not pacifists. In fact, one of the party's rules is no recurring villains. If they fight a foe who will not sort of either make peace or become friends, then they make darn sure that they take them down and keep. Yeah. No recurring villains is the party motto.
Smart.
Great.
Just the most I guess the face character for the party is a Goliath paladin named Dirt, the friend of all living things. And Goliaths have a very competitive culture, and when he heard about the concept of friendship, his idea for his life's great work is he is going to amass the most friends of anybody who ever lived.
Oh no, he found out about Friendster.
This did not impress the Goliath elders, which is why he was given the name Dirt as his deed name. But he just shrugged and moved down to the lowlands, and now he's trying to amass friends. His motto is no gods, no bad friends.
I like the mottos.
Yeah, right. There's your characters are very good at branding.
Yeah,
and your players are very good at branding.
You could have your own T-shirt line.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's part of why I'd like to write this up, is because I think people would really enjoy the characters in this game.
Yeah,
I would.
I like hearing about it.
Yeah, I like what I'm hearing so far.
There's a warlock in our party who introduces herself as a cleric of a god with an average amount of tentacles.
Just the average amount, not too much, not too little.
Yeah.
Just
and
average.
A completely normal number of eyes.
Yeah.
the usual amount of eyes and tentacles.
No big deal.
Which is different for different people, though. So you can be like, I'm not sure.
Average.
Yeah. Whatever you think. Does that god always appear that way, or have the characters actually seen an image of that god, or is it just whatever everyone else thinks is the usual amount?
Well, the god has not made an on-screen appearance. I think it's the kind of god where looking at it directly you would not be in a state to describe to anybody how many tentacles or eyes it has.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Very cool.
What are your... Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was just going to ask about the other players in this campaign.
Yeah, I want to hear more about them.
Okay. So we have the party misanthrope is Professor Gimir Stoneblade, a dwarven professor of theology, a dual-class wizard cleric, theoretically lawful good, but if he doesn't really have a motto, but he's got a catchphrase, which is, how can I turn this to my advantage?
Oh. Okay.
I did a heavily modified version of Death House to give them a sort of Halloween episode. And one of the things I put in it as like little throwaway token was a cultist's diary written in blood and bound in skin.
Oh.
And it was just supposed to be about, the dark secrets of the cult. But the player decided that this surely must have arcane secrets he can learn to further his quest for arcane knowledge. I'm like, okay, if you want to do this, it's not really the wizard type of magic. It's more the god of an average number of tentacles type of magic. But so I allowed him to keep the book and periodically make arcana checks to decipher rituals in it, which always had some sort of horrific cost. And it's not like they were secret costs. But so we had this long-running arc where the lawful good professor of theology kept dabbling with this book, trying to crack its secrets and using it to cast higher-level spells than he could currently cast, like Contact, Other Plane. Dangerous spells.
Yeah.
And always with a powerful cost. And at the point where he finally got to the point where the ritual that would have solved exactly the problem the party had required him to sacrifice 5 innocent lives. That's when he figured out that it was evil. And so he burned it. And then his so-called friends and the rest of the party faked up another copy of it and put it under his pillow.
Oh.
Oh, as like, by the way, you didn't actually burn it. It's still here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was fairly convinced that he was cursed forever for a while.
How can he turn that to his advantage?
How could he?
Then we have Vasha, the party pragmatist.
Oh.
She's a dwarven fighter. She's the one who sort of codified the no recurring villains.
Okay. Yep.
And when the party took a prisoner and they were trying to figure out what to do with them, she's the one who decided, since they also rule the city, that if they're going to have, it's one thing to kill somebody in combat, but if we're going to be killing people we have in custody, we need to actually have laws and courts for this. But she's very much the party pragmatist, and she takes a sort of very Gordian approach to problem solving. We have Jitana, a forest gnome ranger, and in my magic-free, magic just came back setting, any race that has innate magic is from another plane. So she was actually swept in from the Feywild in the magical cataclysm. So she had an arc that involved trying to find out where the rest of her gnome village got swept to.
That's neat.
And we just got a new player recently who this is her first time playing D&D. She really takes to the role-playing part, though. Dima, a true neutral Aasimar monk, who she's doing a really great job of role-playing. She had been in a magical place of isolation that was cut off from the rest of the world when magic went away. So she's neutral, but she has no experience with temptation. And so she has this really great sort of vacillating dark desires with with her angelic guardian.
Got it.
Trying to. So, yeah. And, I was talking about how they have infrastructure. I think I've mentioned all the characters. I have to tell you about my favorite plot device. I told you they use their magic items for infrastructure. They have a well of worlds. They refer to it as the Not My Problem portal.
Oh.
They do not use it to explore the multiverse. They use it to dispose of things they don't want to deal with.
Oh.
So what have they put through that so far?
It's like a giant cosmic trash chute.
Like villains, they don't want to be resurrected, I think. At one point, there were these corrupted rust monsters that were spreading aberration underground. So they found a plane that looked nice and threw them into it.
You'll like it. It'll be great.
As long as it looks nice.
I mean, they were dead, but they threw them into the positive energy plane, which A, resurrected them, B B, started spreading their corruption throughout all of the higher planes.
Oh.
So a ticked-off angel came to the town of Vale, demanding to speak to the Defilers. And everybody thought he was talking about Gimir, the professor, who had been gone that week. So he had to vouch as a priest. He had to vouch for the good behavior and intentions of everybody else.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That is a tough one. But I like that having a thing that you're like, let's not think about it and put him through the chute.
Yep.
Not my problem portal.
Not my problem.
How long has this group been playing together?
Oh, jeez. Might be 2 years now. I'm not even sure. It's been a while.
It's great that they're so in tune, like they have the same ideas, because sometimes you get a group that, like, there's a couple that really want the combat and the ones that are just after the story, but it sounds like they're all very on the same page with
we do have to check in sometimes.
Yeah.
We do have to check in sometimes and make sure that everybody's getting what they want.
That's good advice for any dungeon master out there.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, so that's your home campaign, and I'm looking forward to this new podcast that you're starting up. Hopefully, you build a lot of the same bonds that you have with this group, with that group. I think that's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I have high hopes.
Where can people find out? I mean, you mentioned a few of the Patreons here and there, but where's a good laundry list of where people can check out your work and or when Dungeon Queering is going to be premiering?
Okay, if you don't want to follow my so many words on Twitter, and I never hold it against people when they don't. So many people like, oh, I'll totally follow you, and then it's like, oh, another 300 tweet thread. Okay. So if you don't want to follow that, I try to post everything that I do anywhere onto my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Alexandra Aaron. Same name that should be as
displayed beneath your picture. Yes.
Exactly. I just had to switch tabs and check and make sure I had it.
I could mentally hear you switching tabs.
But yeah, so patreon.com/Alexandra Aaron. That has got my fantasy, my fiction, my poetry. I've basically my other blog has not really been updated for a while, so I'm doing my blogging over there. And once my episodes of Dungeon Queering are going up, I will link them there. You can also find them directly at patreon.com/consolequeers, all one word. So
Sweet.
Yeah, Patreon's the best way to follow what I'm doing if you don't want to wade through my Twitter.
Love it. Awesome. And just your Twitter is at Alexandra Aaron as well, right? If people do want to actually lean into the old insomnia tweets. Yeah, that makes sense.
Insomnia tweets.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for calling in. It was really awesome talking to you. I feel like I know.
I want to take your class.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
We'll sign up to your newsletter. Awesome. We'll have you on again soon. Thanks a lot.
You bet. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
She's really cool.
That is amazing. Yeah, I feel like now after those descriptions, I want to jump into playing with
That's pretty
her.
cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I like I like
DM.
taking the magic items and putting them into use in the town. Like
Yeah.
that's an amazing thing.
Yeah. I would want to keep mine, though.
Well, you are a selfish,
I'm a
terrible
selfish
person.
little wizard. I want my magic items.
Give me all my sorcerer stuffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Cool. Well, I hope more people do go and follow her because they are, and this is maybe why I've seen more of her tweets at the right time. Was that that's when I'm looking at things.
3 in the morning?
Well, no, it's 3 in the morning her time. She's on the
it's
East Coast,
midnight
but
our
it's
time.
well, I mean, it's not necessarily that.
Get
late.
off your Twitter.
At like 10 or 11 p.m. our time, I'll check and I'll be like, oh, look at this amazing,
That's
tweet thread of stuff to go check out.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
How's your Instagram doing?
Doing really well. I've been posting
Really?
a lot of stuff on there. Have you not followed me yet?
I think I'm following you.
Yeah. My mom now follows me on Instagram, so I
Your
don't have to
mom
actually
has
talk to her.
Instagram?
Yeah. No, she just follows me, I think, just to get pictures of my girls and stuff. But I went to the roller rink in White Center.
Oh, I did see a picture of that.
It was amazing. I want to go
Really?
back there all the time. I love that place.
Did you skate or just the
Yeah,
kids?
I absolutely skated. Fiona did for the first time. Got her strapped on.
Really?
And
Whoa.
and she was fearless. She was absolutely fearless, falling down and
that's
hurting
very
herself
Fiona.
constantly, but then never
Do they
cried.
wear helmets? Do they wear?
Nah.
Oh,
Nah, you don't need helmets.
you don't?
There's so many other people. There's staff there that are if you fall down, they're like, "Are you okay?" Or like, "Good."
Oh,
And
so that fixes a broken, bloody head.
you don't
Are you
go that
okay?
fast. You can't go that fast. Really.
Are there people like skating by,
know what?
shooting the duck?
You
and-
shouldn't go.
No, I shouldn't. I'm not
Absolutely
putting my
not.
kid on skates.
You're like, I don't like boats. I don't like skates. I don't like anything involving any kind
I don't
of
like
perceived
anything
danger.
where my kid is gonna bleed. I just can't.
But there's a chance. That doesn't mean that it'll actually happen, right? If you walk outside, you might get struck by lightning. You shouldn't go outside.
I'm okay with me. It's him that I
He
worry
could
about.
get struck by lightning. Don't let him play outside ever.
He's never outside.
well, good.
No, he never goes outside.
Nice. Well, we'll leave his adventuring into Dungeons and Dragons.
Should I tell you we're playing Dungeon with him?
No way, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Did it work?
Yeah, he loves it.
He gets treasures and holds on to them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Does
And-
not use them for the greater good like
Yeah,
Alexandra's
no,
group
he
does.
keeps on. He holds on. I got another cup. I got a gold cup. He doesn't know what it means, but he likes it.
He's developing into a good person.
Yeah.
Slowly over
Salt
time.
cups. No, he's good. He likes it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, we got to get out of here.
Okay.
We'll take
Okay, bye.
a hiatus. Where can people find out about you and everything that you're doing, Shelley?
I'm not doing anything.
That's true. All right.
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter, though, at Shelly Moo.
That's you.
That's me.
And what about your game company that you kind of like do stuff with?
There's this company called Avalon Hill.
I never heard of it.
They've been around. New company.
Newish.
Yeah, newish. Just like a year or so. Plus like 60. But follow Avalon Hill on Twitter at Avalon Hill 2, number 2. Avalon Hill 2. And you'll find
So
all
the
sorts of
poop
great
emoji?
stuff. Not do.
Avalon Hill poop emoji?
No.
That's what you have to follow?
Not poo. Not do.
2.
2.
2,
Not
okay.
number 2.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I did say number 2.
You did say number
I did.
I'm sorry. I'm a child, just like
You
your 4-year-old.
are.
Yeah,
Do you
that's
know
true.
Quinn?
Yeah, no, he's my best friend.
Yeah, Quinn. Banana.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
You can follow me. I'm at Greg Tito. Ask me any silly questions you want. You mentioned the underscore, not the underscore, but the Instagram. And I'm at Greg _ Tito. That's where the underscore comes from.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
I better make sure I'm following you.
So yeah, definitely follow us if you like annoying weird things on the Twitters. But if you want to find out about Dungeons and Dragons, go to dungeonsanddragons.com. Follow at Wizards _ DND for all the latest crazy news that's happening. I feel
Lots of news happening.
we've got so many amazing partners doing amazing things, such as the next guest that we're going to be having come in here very soon.
Oh.
Yeah, and those of you who are listening on the podcast, you'll hear that the next time we release it.
Yeah.
It'll be out there, but we're talking to Trent Oster, which will be really exciting.
Oster.
All right, well, that's it for this episode of Dragon Talk.
Yep.
We're closing it out
Gotta
with some
New tagline.
Rocks fall! Everyone dies! You didn't think I was actually going to do that, did you?
I love it. It was perfect. You scared these.
They were like, what? That sounded like death and destruction. Hi, Twitch people. We are going to take indeed a very short break. We're going to do like 2 minutes. Are you going to go to your actual meeting? Or
Kind of. I don't know what to do. All
right, well, then
do you have anyone else?
No, it's just going to be
All right,
me. All right, sweet. Yay! I guilted her into it. So we are going to take a short break. We'll play some ads. For those of you who have subscribed, you are awesome. You won't see those ads. You will just see the crazy behind-the-scenes stuff that happens here, such as me cleaning up all of these dice and putting them back in their thing so I can knock it over at the end. I know, right? We got to reset. So thank you for that, subscribers. But we'll be back in about 5 minutes, and we'll do our intro for the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.